My name is Joey and this is my documentary Fast Fashion. I am making this documentary to spread awareness and knowledge about a global issue called fast fashion.
So what is fast fashion? Fast fashion is inexpensive clothing produced rapidly by mass marketing retailers in response to the latest trends. Fast fashion has made the fashion industry into the second largest polluter in the world after oil and accounts for 10% of all humanity's carbon emissions. That's more emissions than all international flight and maritime shipping combined. It's also the second largest consumer of the world's water supply. The fashion industry is responsible for 10% of the world's total greenhouse gas emissions, which is almost as much as the whole of China, 12.5%. On average, people bought 60% more garments in 2014 than they did in 2000, but kept these clothes for half as long compared to 15 years ago, with 3 out of 5 fast fashion items ending up in landfill. That's equivalent to one rubbish truck full of clothes being burnt or dumped in a landfill every second.
Not only is fast fashion destroying the environment, it's affecting millions of people worldwide.
97% of fast fashion is produced overseas in developing countries with poor labour laws and human rights protections.
With the clothing industry employing 40 to 75 million people,
80% of which are women and girls who frequently face terrible conditions and abuse.
The reason why almost all fast fashion is produced overseas in developing countries
is because of the cheap cost of manufacturing, which leads to lower prices for the clothing, which benefit these huge companies, but inflicts lower wages on these garment workers.
Most garment workers work 60 to 70 hours a week
and are paid a piece rate of 2 to 6 cents per piece, earning minimum wage or less.
Not only are these garment workers making less than minimum wage, they are risking their lives just to be in these factories.
With factory fires, accidents and collapses becoming more and more frequent, the worst being the Rana Plaza in Dhaka, Bangladesh, collapsing in 2013, killing 1,132 people and injuring more than 2,500. Even with the workers complaining and telling the managers that there were cracks in the wall, which were becoming worse, these workers were forced to continue and work.
Now you may think this doesn't affect you or is a problem you're not involved in, but to that I would like you to check right now the labels of the clothing you are wearing. Check for the country they are from and the material they're made out of.
These are the countries that produce and manufacture the majority of fast fashion for the world, with most garment workers getting the minimum wage or less. But as you can see, the living wage for these countries are much higher than the minimum wage, with families having to all work to survive and live in their respective countries, and sometimes children are sent or choose to go work to help provide for their family.
The material also affects the impact your clothing is having on the environment. Most clothing is made from either
polyester, nylon, acrylic, and other synthetic fibres, which are made up of plastic microfibres and are now the most common material used for clothing, making up for roughly 60% of all clothing worldwide. These plastic microfibres are made from petroleum, which is found in oil, and in 1 year the fashion industry uses nearly 70 million barrels of oil.
Not only is the process of making these plastic clothing bad,
these pieces of clothing take over 200 years to decompose into the environment. But even when this happens, these microfibres, which these clothes are made out of, are left in these ecosystems.
Microplastics have been found at the highest and lowest points of the earth.
At the top of Mount Everest and all the way down at the bottom of the 11-kilometre deep Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean.
Even the process of washing clothing made out of polyester, nylon, acrylic and other synthetic fibres
leads to hundreds of thousands of these microfibres being released into the water supply from a single wash.
And over the course of a year, washing clothing releases 500,000 tonnes of microfibres into the ocean.
This is equivalent to 50 billion plastic bottles. Microfibres now account for 85% of all human-made debris found on the shorelines around the world. In 2017, Greenpeace even found these microplastics in the waters of Antarctica.
The main material used to make clothing is cotton, which contrary to popular belief is almost as bad for the environment as these plastic clothes just stated.
Cotton is the most widespread, profitable, non-food crop in the world. Its production provides income for more than 250 million people worldwide, and employs almost 7% of all labour in developing countries.
While cotton is biodegradable, unlike polyester, nylon, acrylic and other synthetic fibres,
to farm cotton, it takes a considerable amount of water. For a standard t-shirt, it takes 2,720 litres of water, which is equivalent to 3 years' worth of drinking water. A 2017 report revealed that in 2015 alone, the fashion industry consumed 79 billion cubic metres of water, enough to fill 32 million Olympic-sized swimming pools.
Growing this cotton uses 18% of all pesticides and 25% of all insecticides worldwide.
These chemicals run out and affect the neighbouring areas.
Another big statistic about the cotton production is the amount of suicides which occur.
More than 270,000 Indian cotton farmers have killed themselves since 1995. This is because of the rise in price of genetically modified seeds coming onto the market, which for these poor farmers spiral them into a cycle of unmanageable debt. So what can you do to help slow down fast fashion? You can start by thinking and asking questions. Reading labels, seeing where your clothes come from and thinking about the people who made it. Invest in your wardrobe. Buying less but buying better. Start shopping at charity shops and vintage shops. And finally, recycle your clothing where you can. Never throw your clothing away.